And thank you so much for having this forum. I'm learning so much from all of you who are on the ground doing such great work. I was asked the question, how can top businesses and government work together to better integrate older adults and aging population into the economy? And I think we're seeing here what you guys are doing on the ground. Congratulations on all that amazing work. What we do at the Global Coalition on Aging is we're trying to make sure that we're elevating this conversation on aging so that it's more of that top-down approach. So that when global leaders start talking about these issues, then that means that we're really going to start to be able to see change at different levels. So Global Coalition on Aging, we are a membership organization of global corporations. And so you'll see we have a lot of pharma companies, but we also have financial services, we have technology companies, and it's really all about how these companies are interested in integrating aging as part of their business strategies, because we fundamentally believe that every business, every employer, every government needs to have an aging strategy because these are the trends that are built in for the next several decades. And we help them work through those in terms of how their products and services need to change, how their workplace and workforce strategies need to change, how their diversity strategies and CSR need to change as well. And we're doing that by talking with global institutions like the World Health Organization, working with the G20 and the OECD, as well as national governments, NGOs, academics, to pull together these conversations, to convene, to write reports and things like that. So why would top businesses and other governments be interested in this? Well, it's a market, it's a huge market. From our perspective, you see that there's a billion people over the age of 60 already. It's going to double in the next couple of decades. And it's not dissimilar from other market opportunities in the past, because this is a whole group of people. So the Eastern Europe opened up in the 1990s when the wall came down. It's 500 million people that market has opened up to. China in 2001, 1.2 billion people that you see as market opportunities. And today, with millennials, when you look at businesses or any other organizations out there, you look at employment strategies, you'd be surprised if someone said they didn't have a millennial strategy. So why don't we have that for an older population? And the way we see it is that there's a full ecosystem that must be engaged. This must be a multi-sector effort. We need to have boots on the ground doing all the fantastic work that you guys are doing here, but we also need to make sure that every business, regardless of size, has an aging strategy, and that governments create policies that are enabling that ecosystem. And each of us as individuals have to act and think differently as well. So we know a little bit, and I'm sure everyone here understands the silver economy. It's got immense spending power. 60-plus consumers already worth $15 trillion. In the United States, controlling 70% of the disposable income. And that longevity economy just here in the US makes it equivalent to the third largest economy in the world. So yes, there's a market here that we need to be paying attention to. Business and society overall need to be thinking about that. In terms of the workforce, we know that, we've talked about it here today, 3/4 of people not only want to work longer, or want to work longer, as well as they need to work longer. They want to stay engaged. We know that when people work longer, they're actually healthier. So it's good for mental health, it's good for physical health, and so we have to adapt our workplace policies around that. Further, we need to look at investments in health. In fact, older people are healthier today. We've gone through the 20th century with advancements in sanitation and medicine and healthcare, and people are healthier today as they age. And so really that goal is to make sure we can lengthen that health span as we have our lengthened lifespans over time. So investments in this area of prevention and wellness is very important. But what we're missing right now is, while these things are true and we're beginning to see that more, we're seeing more of the research around that, still from a business, employer, even a government point of view, we see very few people have, or organizations really do have a business strategy that's focused on an older demographic, but also just sort of on the aging of society overall. So I like to say that the silver economy opportunity is not about old people. I say that in quotes because it's a derogatory term to say, hey, you old people over here, we young people over here. But it's really funny because that's what's happening in society. I was watching a cartoon with my daughter yesterday, and it is all about pitting babies who talk against older people who are living like in a senior living community, and it's all about, oh, the babies are saying, oh, they love mushed up food and naps in the afternoon. They're trying to take us over. I'm like, no, this is not a competition, right? Her dad let her watch it, not me. So as I'm listening to this, I'm like, we're not watching this show anymore because this is not a competition that young and old. So this conversation about aging, the longevity economy, we call the silver economy, is about all people. It's about each and every one of us, because my daughter, who's 3 years old today, she has a 1 in 2 chance of living to be about 104, 105 years old. So she has to live her life differently today because her lifespan is going to be a lot longer than even her great-grandparents before her. So we all have to make changes for that differing lifespan. So this is going to be a little bit of a complex slide, but it's our sort of schematic. As we think about healthy aging, it's really connected to that business opportunity, and that overall it can lead to economic growth. Because if we engage older people in the way that older people can be engaged in society, then it's going to lead to economic growth and fiscal sustainability. And what's really good about that is when we create that opportunity for older people today, we'll create that opportunity for ourselves tomorrow. So, with changing demographics, if we just look at aging as health and an economic burden, we're going to be trying to put band-aids on things and just sort of fix things as they come. That's not going to be enough, because we do have a wave of older people that are coming in. And again, that's built in for the next several decades. But if we look at investments in older society and in the aging population, if we focus in the healthcare sector in terms of prevention and wellness, we think about bringing care into the home. We've talked a lot about aging in place here today, building the age-friendly communities that so many of you are working on today, keeping people in the workplace, but reframing retirement so that people work like they want to work and contribute like they want to work. And then also create the environment, and this is a lot in the policy space, about welcoming innovations in this space and doing things completely differently. These are just a few examples. I'm not going to talk through all of these that we're focused on at the Global Coalition on Aging. And it really is a lot about prevention and wellness at the top, but we can integrate it into all these different investments. So you're talking about vaccines. We just started a program in Japan that was announced yesterday to try to have new programs that focus on behavioral change to get people to actually go and have vaccines when they're older, and to create a campaign around that, but also a program and schematic around that as well. So if we invest in these things up front, we're going to have healthier older people, we're going to have more productive society. We're going to have all these other great benefits of engaging older people that leads to economic growth and societal benefits for all. So these are just a couple of the examples that we're seeing at the Global Coalition on Aging. Things like Allure saying they don't want to talk about anti-aging anymore because aging isn't something we should fight. We should embrace it. We should celebrate it. It's much better than the alternative. Gillette has a new razor. It's all about, it's for caregivers, to shave someone else and not yourself. It's the first ever for that. We've had conversations with IKEA about new furniture that's easier to put together, but also is really designed for a more sort of caring environment in which people want to live. Philips is a great example because they were the second leading source of light to the sun, and they decided that they're actually changing their business model. They're focused on healthcare and connected homes. So one of the ways we do this is we convene leaders at the top. So CEOs, government institutions. We held the first ever high-level forum, the Global Coalition on Aging did, first ever high-level forum on the silver economy in Helsinki, as associated with the presidency of the EU that they led this year. And it was really focused not on the demographics, but really on the actions that need to be taken from businesses, from governments, from global institutions. And so I just wanted to share some of the takeaways that we're sort of seeing from this global and high-level perspective that we're seeing now written more into policies. Standing up to ageism is really important. We hit on that a little bit today, but there's this inherent ageism, and you see it in the workplace. It really is the last acceptable form of discrimination in the workplace, and it is illegal, and yet it still exists. We see it in the healthcare system, that a lot of times older people have symptoms and they come in and their doctor says, oh, you're just getting older, and so that doesn't get diagnosed as heart failure or some other issue that really is problematic and can be treated because we have the medical innovation for it. So that's a really big one to start with. Of course, adapting for longer lives, and so forced retirement doesn't really make sense anymore but how do we, foster a gig economy? How do we foster working differently? How do we foster more intergenerational teams? That's a really important piece that is very important to me, because we see that intergenerational teams are actually more productive than single generation ones. So how do we make sure that we get the training and the teams that we want in the workplace to be as productive as possible? Healthy aging needs to be a target of health systems. We realize we're always going to need to treat disease, and we're going to need to prevent disease. But as the World Health Organization is saying, leading into the decade of healthy aging in 2020, functional ability, the ability to do the things that we want and that we value, that's going to be a measure of success in terms of health. We talked a lot about keeping care in the home and aging in place. As we recognize that with the use of technology and the use of more connectedness, that we can do more in keeping people independent and active as they age. The home is the place to do that. And then, of course, connecting business and policy decisions with the desire of older adults. When we were at the Silver Economy Forum, a big piece of that was recognizing you have to have co-creation. You have to work together with older people themselves to say, what do you really need? Because as was mentioned earlier, we're talking about a huge span of ages and capabilities, and it's not just chronological. So we need to make sure that we're working hand in hand with those societies who are going to benefit most. And with that, these are just some of my takeaways. And again, it's sort of at a different level from what we're talking about here today. But as we go out to the different audiences we speak to, we want to make sure that they are open to the changes that are happening on the ground here. So thanks so much for your time.